Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. We're here on Wacky and Weird Wednesday, and we're going to cover those wacky and weird news stories. So let's go ahead and get into our headlines and go into what's going on out there. Today on Before Coffee, Spain rolled out a new animal welfare law. It has many contradictions.
In U.S. political news, the Speaker of the House is fired and defendant Trump is gag ordered. But in real news, we have a high school teacher who's suspended for being on a porn site.
Police find a live sheep in the trunk of a car on the A2 near Boxtel.
Also, we have a technology story about microscopes need to get on the same page.
Culture re-review. Why Janis Joplin's death at 27 remains one of rock's greatest tragedies.
Those stories and more on today, which is National Taco Day, October 4th, 2023 on Before Coffee.
Okay. Time for our first news story. Spain. This is under the Uncovering Europe, the news story nobody's talking about. So this is coming out of Spain from Graham Keeley on Euronews. Police in Spain now have powers to arrest people for leaving their pets alone, following the adoption of a new animal welfare law that came into force last week in Spain. The law targets those who mistreat animals by bringing fines up to 200,000 euros. Wow, that's a lot of money. However, the pioneering legislation has left out fighting bulls, conveniently in Spain, fighting bulls, hunting dogs, and dolphins, which perform in marine parks. The apparent contradictions within the legislation have been excused by animal rights groups, which say the country's first specific animal rights legislation is an achievement. In a sign that attitudes towards animals are changing in Spain, the law is proof that the issue is now on the center of a political debate. It bans the buying of pets in shops and online, but gives shops a grace period to find homes for these pets. From now onwards, pets will only be sold from registered breeders and be allowed into restaurants and bars when previously they have been tied up outside. Wild animals like lions or tigers have been banned from circuses, with the owners of these animals given 6 months to comply. Marine parks may still use dolphins until these mammals die. Oh, so they're not allowed to buy more dolphins. Bullfights, regarded by some Spaniards as an integral part of the country's culture, but others see as cruel, have not been included in the law. A proposal included hunting dogs was also left out by the ruling socialist government after it sparked an outcry from hunters and conservatives in rural areas. An achievement for the animal rights movement. About 29 million animals are kept as pets in Spain, the vast majority of them dogs, according to government statistics. However, around 300,000 are abandoned each year, and about one-third of those are put down. Mandatory pet insurance and registration, as well as training for pet owners, is one of the novelties of the law. However, those requirements and some legal aspects were delayed because Spain has no effective government. We've been talking about this on and off. July's inconclusive elections left the country with a hung parliament. If acting socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez manages to form a coalition government, these measures may be enacted. Anima Naturalis, an animal rights group, campaigned hard for hunting dogs to be included in the new law, but were defeated. Every February, after the hunting season ends, hundreds of dogs are abandoned or even hanged if they are no use to their owners, campaigners claim. What the hell? You train a good hunting dog, then you're like, well, we used it for the season, put it in the trash can. Oh, well, he's 12 years old now. No retirement for this guy. That is awful to hear about. In terms of hunting dogs, it is a battle in which we have lost, unfortunately, for the hunting dogs. The owner of these dogs did not want them to be registered, but despite everything, it is good news that all dogs should be registered. Ida Gascon of Animal Naturalis told Euronews. Their mere existence of this pioneering legislation at a state level is an achievement for the animal rights movement, which has managed to put animal rights at the center of political agenda permanently. Animal rights arouses passion in Spain, with some in rural areas saying hunting wild boar, foxes, deer, and other animals is an essential part of their lifestyle. Sergio Garcia Torres, the Director General of Animal Rights in Spanish Society Rights Ministry, said he had received threats and had personal security. He said sooner or later, hunting dogs will be included in the future legislation on animal rights. However, hunters vowed to fight any attempt to include under the same legislation animals which are used for work along with domestic pets. This law represents a direct threat to the viability of hunting in Spain, Manuel Golardro of the Royal Spanish Hunting Federation, which represents 337,000 hunters, told Euronews. Across European legislation on animal welfare varies. The main area for political debate centers on the treatment of farm, not domestic animals. The European Commission is considering a new welfare measure because of the cost of food inflation, according to a recent report by Financial Times. Brussels was planning on a ban on measures like the use of livestock cages, the killing of day-old chicks, and the sale and production of fur. But concerns that the proposed changes could push up food costs, which have risen sharply after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, have led the Commission to reconsider the plans. Despite the possible backtrack, the EU has taken strides in recent years towards animal welfare measures. In 2007, the bloc banned veal crates, and in 2012, it implemented a ban on tiny cages for egg-laying hens. Veal crates? I'm guessing putting calves in crates. Oh, yeah, I see. But we have veal dog houses here in our village, which I guess they're also not allowed to move in those. But they have like a little small outcrop, like a little fence outside the little dog houses that they can leave. But I guess it's still really not a lot of walking for the little cows. So I was just wondering, because I was like, if those are illegal, the farm down the street is committing a crime. But I think it's specifically the ones where they're in these little like actual wooden crates. Yeah. The EU has implemented a partial ban on cages for female breeding pigs, allowing pork producers to lock them in small crates, which have been criticized by animal rights groups. Individual EU countries have introduced their own bans on cages for pigs or hens. However, Germany and Denmark are the only agricultural heavyweights among them. Germany will introduce a ban on cages from 2025, while Denmark's near total ban on cages for pigs starts from 2035. France, another major agriculture country, has introduced a partial ban on the sale of eggs from caged hens. So there's your update on animal rights in Europe, and also how Spain is gonna protect dogs. For the most part, unless you're a hunting dog, tough luck. Maybe next time. Your next story. Oh.
Not have a Speaker of the House for the first time in history. They have vacated that job. Yes, Speaker Kevin McCarthy. This is from AP. Speaker Kevin McCarthy was voted out of the job Tuesday in an extraordinary showdown. A first in U.S. history, forced by a contingent of far-right conservatives and throwing the House and its Republican leadership into chaos. It's the end of the political line for McCarthy, who has said repeatedly that he never gives up, but found himself with almost no options remaining, neither the right-flank Republicans who engineered disaster nor the Democrats who piled on steam to open up the negotiations. McCarthy told lawmakers in the evening he would not run again for Speaker, putting the gavel up for grabs. Next steps are highly uncertain, with no obvious successor to lead the House Republican majority. Action assaulted in the House until next week when Republicans try to elect a new Speaker. McCarthy's chief rival, Matt Gaetz of Florida, orchestrated the rare vote, an obscure motion to vacate, and pushed ahead swiftly into a dramatic afternoon roll call. Stillness fell as the presiding officer gavelled the vote closed at 2:16 to 2:10, saying the office of Speaker is hereby declared vacant. He needed 217 votes. He got 216. So the Democrats would help him. McCarthy's out. There is no Speaker of the House as current. And I wonder if the Republicans realize they have vacated a constitutional officer. Yes, they have. They have vacated a constitutional officer who is third in line to the presidency. President Pro Tem of the Senate, the third in line, and that is Democrat Patty Murray. So they've advocated an actual constitutional office they could have in their party. They are incompetent morons. And speaking of incompetent morons, Donald Trump has been slapped with a gag order. Yes, former President Donald Trump appears in court in New York City, not in one of his 4 felony indictment trials. No. He should have gag orders in all 4 of those too. But Judge Arthur Ennigan in New York State issued a gag order. Engoron issued a gag order on former President Trump and his legal team on Tuesday, a result of social media posts featuring one of the judge's staffers. That's right, he doxed us doing their job, and he decided to name them and put out their Instagram page and make sure their lives are miserable. Yes, Donald Trump's a piece of shit. But in the real news today, we have a Missouri high school teacher. A Missouri high school teacher, this is according to the Associated Press, St. Clair, Missouri. A Missouri high school teacher says she has been placed on leave after officials discovered that she was performing on a pornography website to supplement her salary. That's right, Brianna Kopich, 28, who taught English at St. Clair High School. It's always English teachers. They're always the more liberal ones. Don't forget that. Nothing bad. And I'm not saying nothing bad about her, except, it is high school. Says her teaching days are probably over, but she acknowledges that she knew the risks. Kopich told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch that she was put on leave on Wednesday after being interviewed by 2 administrators. Her access to school email and other software is suspended while the district investigates. It was kind of always like the cloud hanging over my head, like I never knew when I would be discovered, Kopich said in an interview. Then, about 2 weeks ago, my husband and I were told that people were finding out about it, so I knew this day was coming. Superintendent Kyle Krause said in a statement that the district was recently notified that an employee may have posted inappropriate media on one or more internet sites. The district was engaged in legal counsel to conduct a comprehensive investigation into this matter. Actions taken as a result of the investigation will be in accordance with the board policy with the guidance from legal counsel. St. Clair is about 55 miles southwest of St. Louis, which is 88 kilometers. The high school is about 750 students. Not a big high school by American standards. Kopich said she joined the OnlyFans website over the summer to supplement her salary as a second-year school teacher. She taught English at freshmen and sophomores and made about $42,000 last year, according to the newspaper's public paid database. She said she earned an additional $8,000 to $10,000 per month performing on OnlyFans. Kopich said she chose the site because its content is available only to subscribers, and she thought it would help protect her identity. She said she didn't know how the district learned of her account. She insisted no content was filmed or posted while she was on school grounds. I am very aware that I'm probably never going to teach again, but that was kind of the risk I knew I was taking. I am sad about that. I do miss my students. But Kopich said her account has gained about 100 new subscribers. No wonder. Well, little free
she's
publicity.
lost all her normal income, so now that's her only income.
And again, she's probably gonna make more. She has more than doubled her subscription price and plans to continue posting on her site. And to not regret joining OnlyFans, it can be taboo. While some people may believe it is shameful, but I do not think sex work has to be shameful, Kopich said. I just wish things just happened in a different way. And again, she's teaching a class in economics. Unintentionally as it may be, she's teaching a class in economics. What pays, what sells. And it ain't school teaching. And there's your story.
I completely agree with that. I think my favorite thing about sex work is that people are like, oh, how could you do that? Sell your body. And I'm like, you sell your body every day. What are you talking about? Everyone is selling their body and their time to some person they probably will never meet who's making billions off of them. But sex workers are the ones who are shameful,
College football players, they don't even get any money.
All sports people are basically sex workers.
Sex workers, and people get off watching college football, believe me.
And they have all those ads. They have all those ads for shampoo and all their, Sports Illustrated is basically a porno magazine. Like, come on.
may not be compatible with a career as a school teacher. Maybe a high school teacher, probably not an elementary school teacher, you know.
I don't
Kids
know
are
why
on the
her
internet
kids should
so
never
young
find
these
out,
days.
right? Her kids should never find out. If she's
true.
an elementary school teacher, why would they ever find out? Why would it even matter? Elementary schools don't understand being naked is bad. They haven't been taught that by society yet.
That's true. Again, but it does screw up the power dynamic. You know, and depending on what kind of porn we're talking about too.
Yeah.
Because it gets some weird stuff out. Well, it's OnlyFans, so yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I mean, a cocktail waitress will get fired too, I'm sure. But yeah,
it's messed up. That's for sure. And also the government, McCarthy or whatever, that was also messed up. Because you covered 2 stories there.
I covered 3 stories because Trump also got a gag order.
Short one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was written to Squeal of Fortune because Trump is like, look what's going to happen to you when you're squeal. I'm going to dox you even when you're nobody. When you're a court clerk doing his paperwork, got doxed. Somebody's just going 9 to 5 making less than a school teacher. In New York City. It's 42,000 in New York City, you live in your car. You know, you go somewhere. Wait, you can't afford a car in New York City.
All right, our wacky news story is coming out of the Netherlands from NOS in association with Broadcasting Brabant. Police find live sheep in the trunk of a car on the A2 near Boxtel. The police found a live sheep in the trunk of a car. The animal turned out to come from a petting zoo in Eindhoven. The sheep was in a car with a German license plate and was found during a check, writes Omroep Brabant. The animal ambulance was then alerted. That's right, we have an animal ambulance here. Which took care of the animal. The sheep appeared to be unharmed. We have never experienced anything like this before, the animal ambulance Brabant Noordoost writes on Facebook. Because the sheep had a registered Dutch ear tag in her ears with a clear number, it was possible to find out where the animal came from. According to the animal ambulance, the sheep was taken to a shelter in Ravenstein last night due to the time at which the animal was found. This afternoon, the sheep will be returned to the petting zoo. The police are investigating why the animal was in the trunk of the car. The manager of the petting zoo tells Omroep Brabant that he has not experienced such a kidnapping before. Yeah, why did they kidnap? I just really love this sheep that we found at the petting zoo. So we're taking it home with us. Oh God. But this has happened in the past, he knows. The other sheep at the petting zoo will soon be moved to another location. There's a higher fence around the meadow. So, I don't know if there's more on this story. Oh yeah, I guess there's an interview from the people who it happened to.
They couldn't run the plates on a car.
Yeah, Kim can't believe her luck when the animal ambulance drives into the driveway of the petting zoo with the sheep on Sunday afternoon. When opening the doors, Lambie, as the sheep is called, curiously sticks her head out. "You're saved!" Kim shouts enthusiastically. This is followed by a kiss on her woolly head. The lost sheep is home again. Lambie was kidnapped from the meadow of the petting zoo on Nooshoornstraat, which is Rhino Street in English. Nooshoorn. Officers found the sheep during a check on Saturday night. On Sunday afternoon, the sheep, fortunately unharmed, was brought home. "I'm so glad she's out of the trunk," Kim says. "It is a very strange story, but fortunately with a happy ending. The lost sheep is back home." Lambie seems to feel right at home. She was greeted by all the sheep and goats immediately and started eating. That's a good sign. I think she was anxious last night, but she seems to be feeling good now. After officers discovered the sheep in the car on Saturday night, they immediately contacted Brabant Noordoost Animal Ambulance. "We received sheep in the trunk and at first thought it was a joke," says Lonneke Emmonsbeerens of the Animal Ambulance, "but it turns out to be true. You wonder why someone would do something like this. Bizarre." Mark Peters, manager of the petting zoo, has not experienced such a kidnapping. Oh, we already said that. But now they've moved the sheep to a better place, so that's kind of like the little interview they did on the founding the little cute sheep. It's just like sitting there like, "Can I go back to chewing grass?" The picture. "Can I go back to the grass, please? Why are you guys taking a picture with me? What's the big deal? So I was in a trunk. Who cares?" But there's your weird and wacky news coming out of the Netherlands.
They're looking for the perpetrator because definitely wasn't an accident.
No, I think they arrested him. Yeah, they didn't really talk about what happened, but.
Oh, you mean he's not on the lam? I didn't. All right. More wacky news. What's scientific wacky news? We never think about telescopes and how they. I'm sorry. We can never think about microscopes or even telescopes for that matter and how they can't talk to each other. But according to Nature.com, in this story written by, let's see if we can find his name or her name, or if there's a name. It's a technology feature. Michael Brooks. All right. Open source software could finally get the world's microscopes speaking the same language. Many of us can relate to the characters in films or fiction. Jason Swedlow sees himself as in the stick figures of the online comic strip XKCD. In a strip published in 2011, cartoonist Randall Munroe pokes fun at people's inability to develop a universal standard for, say, electrical outlets, or printer paper dimensions, or TV remote control signals. From 14 competing standards in opening panel, the desire to create a universal standard inevitably just adds one more to the stack. So you just end up having something that does all things, perhaps. The comic is shown at almost every presentation I attend, says Swedlow, a cell biologist at the University of Dundee, UK. Swedlow has been working for 2 decades to standardize image formats for biological microscopy data. That's right, during that time, the number of standard file formats in the field has proliferated to around 160. Now, thanks to a project in which Swedlow has a leading role, there is one more. For 20 years, we've been trying to develop a file format problem. We've been trying to solve the file format problem. And how are we going to solve it? Come up with a new one. That's right. Swedlow can't help but laugh, but he and his colleagues are aiming to prove Munroe's cartoon wrong. Josh Moore, one of Swedlow's collaborators, reckons that they can shrink that file format mountain down to a small handful. I feel like that's something that's manageable from our side, says Moore, senior research data management officer at German Biomaging, a network for the nation's microscopists, that's what it is, and bioimage analysts based in Constance, Germany. Our side is one MAR, a blend of 2 projects. The first is Open Microscopy Environment, which Swedlow started in 2002 to develop the open source specification for biological microscopic data. Czar's new creation, a method for optimizing how large data arrays are stored and downloaded from 21. Moore and his colleagues reported the first specification for OME and Czar to work together as the next generation of file format for bioimaging. This year, OME Czar launched its full-fledged option for biologists to store data with support from dozens of specifically developed tools and programming libraries. Now the real test begins. Can Team OME Czar persuade everyone involved in bioimaging that speaking the same data language is the path to microscopy utopia? Well, let's see. Modern microscopes create mountains of data, with researchers pushing the instruments to produce images at ever higher spatial resolution and ever more colors in far longer periods. Each pixel must be labeled with metadata, such as illumination level, its 3D position, the scale, the sample type, and how the sample was prepared. Between raw data and metadata, a lab can easily produce a hard drive's worth of information in a day. That in itself is not a huge problem. Data storage is getting cheaper all the time. But, and this is where the XKCD analogy comes in, every microscope manufacturer formats its own metadata differently. Imagine like your video camera was not compatible with any other video camera. It's the same thing. This is also true of the many who do it yourself your self-made systems made in an individual lab. What's more, reading the metadata tags for each manufacturer image files often require software created specifically for that system, an area where researchers are striving to make their data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. This is a huge problem. Take Katrine Moller's experience. As part of her graduate research at the University of Zurich in Switzerland, Moller imaged cells called microglia in living zebrafish brains. A single session could produce a terabyte of data, she says. The metadata were an essential part of that information. A lot more things that I did in that project involved measuring distances of travel where things were located in 3D space, says Muller, who earned PhD in 2022 and is now a postdoc at the University of Iceland in Reykjavik. I had to capture both time and metadata, the spatial metadata, locations and pixel size, and which pixel it is. All this metadata had to be stored in a raw data, otherwise I'd have to write it down for every single day. So this has become a problem. It's always been a problem. This is a really long article. It gets into the minutia of it. But long story short is every digital microscope that's capable of creating an image all has different ways of processing that information. And these group of scientists are just trying to work on one format to just boil it all down and make it easier for it. And your story.
Okay. Let's cover our culture review as in we're looking back on the tragic death of Janis Joplin and how she was really one of the greatest tragedies of all time in rock history. This is from Johnny Walfiz on Euronews Culture. It's the 4th October in 1970, and singer Janis Joplin dies. Barely 2 weeks has passed from the sudden demise of virtuoso guitarist Jimi Hendrix, when the rock music world was shocked by another tragic death. The 27 Club, a urban myth based around the coincidental death of many musicians aged 27, wasn't an established idea by this point. But when Janis Joplin, the powerful American rock singer, died in 1970, it was in the midst of a spat of unfortunate musical deaths. Rolling Stones drummer Brian Jones died in 1969. Jimi Hendrix followed in September 1970. Joplin passed away today on 1970, and the Doors singer Jim Morrison would go to die on July 1971, all aged 27. Others line in the informal 27 Club list before and after, but it's this stretch of deaths that define the crux of the urban myth. While an intriguing part of rock trivia, on the anniversary of Joplin's death, it's worth looking at what made her such an essential part of her era's music to understand her high placement on the list. Well, her voice, first of all. Let's stop there. You know, she wasn't singing like a pop singer, let's be honest, and that's what made her stand out. She sang how she wanted to sing, and it was very impressive. I can't sing like that. Born in Texas in 1943, Joplin gained an interest in blues music. After finishing school in 1963, Joplin went to San Francisco to immerse herself in the burgeoning music scene. There, she first started recording music. It was also where she first got introduced to drugs, an addiction that would plague the rest of her life. After a break from drugs in Texas, Joplin returned to San Francisco and joined Big Brother and the Holding Company, the band through which she recorded 2 of her 4 albums. The band's first album wasn't a hit, but the second, Cheap Thrills, released in 1968, put Joplin on the map. Although the #1 selling album, the world was introduced to Joplin's trademark horse rock vocals. Joplin left the band to release a solo album, 1969's I Got Them Old Cosmic Blues Again, Mama, and performed the legendary Woodstock Festival that year, on a billing that included Hendrix. The first solo album wasn't as beloved as Cheap Thrills, but her second would seal the reputation she deserved. Pearl, released in 1971, was another huge hit. Sadly, Joplin wasn't there to see it. She overdosed on heroin on the 4th of October, 1970. It stands as a tragic and early end for one of rock's first significant female figures. Joplin's career was always marred in her lifetime by sexist music press obsessed with her personal relationships with men and women. Yet her greater legacy is that of an outstandingly powerful voice matched with a stage magnetism to rival any male rock star. She posthumously was indicted in the Rock Hall of Fame in 1995. So there's your short and tragic history of Joplin, because indeed it was a short life. 27. I'm older than Janis Joplin when she died.
That's right.
And she did a lot more than me, to be honest. Well, I have a master's degree, so I guess that's something, but...
I wouldn't say...
People still remember her to this day.
Path.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And again,
people are still doing React videos. First time listening to Janis Joplin. I've never heard her before.
Oh, yeah. Still blowing people's mind from 1967 appearance at the Monterey Pop Festival.
Yeah.
With
I can't
Jimi
believe she
Hendrix
sings
also
like
became
that.
a star.
Yeah.
No, she was she blew minds. She was unheard of until Monterey Pop 67. The only reason she was even there is because she's from San Francisco and the festival was in Monterey, which ain't that far. But yeah, local bands were highlighted, including Jimi Hendrix and The Who also were big stars there. The Who was famous. Anyway, this day in history.
Yeah, they're going to cover this for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, it's on there. 1190, in this day in history, Richard the Lionheart on his way to Jerusalem during the Third Crusade, invaded a hostile Sicily and took the key city of Messina. Just because he felt like it, I guess. Yeah, what the heck, we're on our way. Let's just loot someplace. 1535, first complete English Bible, the work of Miles Coverdale, came off the press in Zurich, Switzerland, or in Cologne, Germany. They're not sure which two. That's weird. Okay, in 1582, not too much longer after that. We're chugging along in history here. We lost my page. You go back. We're fifth. I made it bigger and everything just shoots to the bottom for some reason. In 1582, the Gregorian calendar was introduced, and over the following centuries, numerous countries adopted it. So 1582, we don't even know it was on October 4th, do we? It could have been November 3rd, for all we know. 1822, Rutherford B. Hayes, the 19th President of the United States, who brought post-Civil War construction to an end in the South, was born. Rutherford B. Hayes. In 1853, the Crimean War began as Ottoman Turks, later joined by England and France, declared war on Russia, and the fighting lasted for more than 2 years and ended with Russia's defeat. Well, thank God we finally settled that Crimean War thing, the Crimean Peninsula thing back in 1853. Solved that for all time. Oh, wait. 1895, American film comedian Buster Keaton was born. And 1970, we just covered, Janis Joplin died of an accidental overdose of heroin and barbiturates, I believe. Usually an overdose consists of two things. 1989, the American Racehorse Secretariat, who was in 1973 won the Triple Crown, was euthanized after contracting laminitis. So there you go. They just let old Secretariat go to that horse farm in the sky. 1993, the so-called Battle of Mogadishu in Somalia ended with a death toll that included 18 U.S. soldiers and hundreds of Somalians. The conflict occurred during a U.S.-led military operation that was part of a wider international humanitarian peacekeeping effort in a war-torn African country. In 2014, Haitian President Jean-Claude Duvalier, who was president of Haiti from 1971 to 1986, died at Port-au-Prince while he was on trial for alleged human rights abuses. Yeah, go baby Doc Duvalier. And in our featured event, Sputnik 1 was launched by the USSR. In this day in 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite, which orbited Earth until 1958. Inaugurated the space age and highlighted Cold War competition between USSR and US. In our feature biography is Charlton Heston, American actor and head of the NRA at one time. October 4th, he was born in 1923. It's 100th birthday for Charlton Heston. Famously played Moses and was also in Planet of the Apes. You damn dirty apes! Anyway, Charlton Heston, 100 years old today, if his gun was not clutching his cold dead fingers. Anyway, also birthdays today, Buster Keaton was born in 1895. We already covered that. Anne Rice, American author, was born in 1941. 1946, it was the birthday of Susan Sarandon and Christoph Waltz, an Austrian actor, was born in 1956. And what day is the National Day calendar? It is National Coffee with a Cup Day, National Cinnamon Bun Day, National Walk to School Day, National Pumpkin Seed Day, and as we covered, National Taco Day, National Golf Lovers Day, and National Vodka Day.
Hey!
Yes, there's a National
That's
Vodka Day.
a lot of good days out there, except for the cop one.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Coffee with a cop. You get to know your cops. You got to know your cops, man. Know the cop in the beat. Let them know that you support them. It may save your life.
Sadly, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the way it should be, right? You should not be strangers to everybody. Not in your community.
This has been Allison here from the Netherlands. Hopefully not finding any more sheep in trunks. And today I will be having a taco because we're going to go to a Mexican restaurant when I go to visit somebody at the hospital. So there's a Mexican restaurant right next to the hospital. Don't ask.
And it's National Golf Lovers Day.
Yeah, that as well. We're going to celebrate a golf lover who just got out of surgery. And I'll see you tomorrow on Thursday for our Tragic News Thursday. I don't know, it's not.
Tragic News Thursday.
It's not officially
Terrible
Tragic
Thursday.
News Thursday, but it seems to happen that we cover tragic stuff on Thursday.
And this is Roger for the United States. Going to have a cinnamon bun with my coffee with a cop. And then I'm going to have a taco and walk to school. And the October 4th, 2023 edition of the comprehensive news of planet Earth on Before Coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.